Welcome to the 30-Minute Hour. It's the personal development podcast for authors, entrepreneurs, and career professionals who are looking to level up and become unstoppable. I'm your host, Eric Twiggs, your procrastination prevention partner. Joining me as always, you know him as the super CEO, the business strategist extraordinaire, and all-around good guy, Ted Fells.
Happy Monday. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday to you, Ted. How's everything on your end of the world?
Man, when you're inside, everything is good. Outside, as I was saying to Dr. Sherri before, it's 400 degrees outside. Stay in. It's getting hotter by the minute. It's smoking out there. But if you're inside, it's a good thing. Thank God for air conditioning.
I'm not a weather expert by any stretch, but if it's 400 degrees, I would advise you to stay inside.
Stay inside. Stay inside.
There you go.
All is well, then.
All is well. All right. Well, truly, as you can see now, this is not your everyday podcast. I mean, what other podcasts can you listen to where we talk about 400-degree temperatures? You're not going to find it anywhere.
No way.
Not your everyday podcast. For those of you watching us live, hello to you. You can check us out on Facebook. We're on LinkedIn. You can also check us out on IGTV, on our 30-Minute Hour Instagram page, and we're also on YouTube. And then later, this episode will be recorded, and you can go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any of those other great places. Where
you have no excuse.
Right.
To catch the show.
Right.
If you don't catch it, it's because you didn't want to catch it.
That's right. People do what they want to do.
That's right.
Absolutely. So the whole goal is we want to help you to laugh, to learn, and to level up. And at the end, if you feel like we've done that, heck, if you feel like we haven't done that, just share the show.
Yeah.
Share the show.
Exactly.
I shared it to my Facebook page.
Fantastic, Dr. Sherri.
Follow Dr. Sherri. Share the show.
That's right.
Exactly. We're going to put that in the hashtag in the show notes. Share the show.
Share the show.
This show is shareable.
It is. Because let me tell you, our guest today, she's going to share some information and insights with you that can really liberate you and take you to the next level. Because there may be something that's holding you back that you don't realize. You're looking at. You may think it's numbers, you may think it's the economy, you may think it's employees, you may think it's customers, but it could be something totally different that you haven't thought of.
Could be you. It could be you.
That's impossible. Let's not get crazy here.
It's not me.
Yeah, that's it.
But no, she's going to help you with that. So you'll want to share the information. You'll want to take notes. Before we introduce her, I did want to mention a couple of things. First off, the What Now movement. Make sure you have joined the Facebook page. It's the What Now Movement Facebook group. Today's Motivational Monday. You'll be able to go in and put the links to your business, and we can help you to get out there. And I also wanted to talk about our sponsor of the week. Our sponsor of the week is KukuaBiz. Is our sponsor of the week. KUKUABIZ. Now, I'm often asked, as a matter of fact, we were even talking backstage here about, you know how you get to a point where it's just a bandwidth issue, right? There's things you want to do. You want to take your marketing to the next level. You want to follow up to a higher degree, but it becomes a bandwidth issue.
Yeah.
It's like you just don't have the time to do it. You can't be in several places at the same time.
Yeah.
So KukuaBiz can help you with that. And I know because I'm actually using their service right now. Michael Sherlock, she's a previous guest. She has this whole pool of resources of virtual assistants. These virtual assistants, they can do various tasks. They're talented, they're skilled, they're proactive. And the biggest advantage of using KukuaBiz's virtual assistant service is that you're plugging into a network. So the virtual assistant person that you get from them, they've got a question, they get help with onboarding. If they're not available, with someone else that can sub for them. It's a great service and it's very affordable. So you want to go to Kakua Biz, and kakuabiz.com is the site. But if you, when you contact them, mention that you heard about it on the 30-Minute Hour podcast. They are our sponsor of the week. But I'm telling you that I get that question all the time about advice on finding a good virtual assistant. I think Michael Sherlock can help you. And by the way, now Michael's episode was episode number 21. If you ever wanted to go back and find out more about Michael, is moving from potential to performance. It was back on episode 21 of the 30-Minute Hour podcast. Yes.
Eric, could you spell Kakua Biz for our listeners?
Absolutely. KUKUABIZ.
All right.
And I'm going to have a link in the show notes that you can actually click on and get to her site.
All right.
But yeah, KUKUABIZ, Kakua Biz. Total game changer.
Thank you for our sponsor, Kakua Biz.
Shout out to Michael Sherlock. All right. Ted?
Yes,
Take
Eric.
it away.
I've got something that's on my mind.
Please share, Eric.
I thought you'd never ask. So I want to talk, but as we introduce our guest, I want to talk about a particular topic. I want to talk to you about thriving through the power of thought. That's right. I'm going to talk about that right now. Thriving through the power of thought. And it takes me back. The year was 2008. And I was a frustrated district manager. 2008. And I was frustrated by the fact that I couldn't move Jack. That's right. That's right. Jack was one of my managers. And he was failing to achieve his profit goals. And he and I talked to him every week, but the results didn't change. We improved his pricing, never experienced a payoff. We implemented these new processes, didn't see any performance. We hired these new people, didn't enhance production. Like, man, what am I missing here? And so my frustrations got to this boiling point, Ted. So on one of our calls, I said, Jack, man, I've got 17 locations that I'm responsible for. Your location ranks 16th out of 17 in profit improvement. So here's what he says to me. His response told me everything I needed to know. Great. At least I'm not in last place.
That's it.
At least.
He's good.
Yeah, right. So here's the takeaway from that. And it really ties into what we're talking about. Again, we need your undivided attention. If you're driving, pull over to the side of the road. If you're on the treadmill, this is the time you want to push pause. Anything else, Ted, you want the people to do?
Dr. Sherri, put the ham sandwich down. This is the time to put the ham sandwich down.
It was a crab leg. It was a crab leg. So.
And the crab leg. Put them both down. It's about to get good.
We got to add that. Put the crab leg down. So let me tell you the big takeaway. And it really has everything to do with what we're going to talk about on this show. Your expectations will show up in your experience. That's right. Your expectations will show up in your experience. So Jack's expectation was to avoid last place. And that's what he got. And that's all he saw for himself. But this also explains why if you look at the top performers in any field, sports, business, they all have like a swagger. Anybody that's the best of the best in anything. Like they have this swagger, right? They walk in with a winning expectation. They expect to win. They expect to achieve their goals. So to walk with a winning expectation, you have to thrive through the power of thought. Right? And our guest today, he teaches women across the globe how to thrive through the power of thought. All right. So this is the perfect time for us to introduce her. All right. So, and I love this. So she left the comforts of her rural town clinical psychology practice to answer the risk everything call from within to revolutionize how the world thinks about mental health. She believes in the desire and fortitude of every person to adopt a thriving mindset that positively impacts reality and effectively influences others to do the same. She's a thought coach, podcaster, speaker, and author who just published her personal experience of thriving through the power of thought after the trauma of a relationship breakup in her book, Breakup Breakthroughs. She is somebody.
Yeah.
She extends her message globally through her new nonprofit, Thriving Thoughts Global, designed to teach women across the globe in their native languages how to thrive through the simple power of thought.
Wow, Dr. Sherri, you are a big deal.
There's a bandwidth issue right now. There's a bandwidth issue.
Well, we got a sponsor we want to refer to you if you got a bandwidth issue.
Reach out to Michael Sherlock. She can help you with that.
I may just. I've got notes.
Please join me in welcoming to the 30-Minute Hour podcast, Dr. Sherri Yoder.
Yes. Welcome.
Thank you, Eric and Ted. I'm really excited to be here because I know it's going to be a fun conversation riddled with beautiful nuggets of truth.
Absolutely. Welcome to the show. It's an honor to have you on. I want to give everybody like a backdrop of how you got to this point of where you are right now. So let's roll the clock back to your childhood. What did you want to be when you grew up?
That's a deep question, and I feel like a lot of people have a quick go-to answer to that. And I don't. I don't know that I wanted to be anything in particular other than me. So when I was little, I thought I was amazing, and I knew I was amazing. In fact, I would do things like record myself. I'd be up in my bedroom and record myself. But I did a lot of different play activities, from being a grocery store clerk to being a secretary to being a recording artist to being a speaker to being a preacher. I did a lot of different things in the privacy of my room by myself. And I think what they all had in common is that they exemplified the natural bent for finding joy and hope and promise in everyday life. I didn't think that when I was, 8, 9 years old, obviously.
You weren't thinking that 8, 9 years old?
No, I was not. No, I was just living life, being happy. But I think to answer your question, I just wanted to be me, and I was comfortable presenting me to the world in whatever role that showed up in. And then it wasn't until much later. I mean, I had gone to school as a music major and then failed out of that, dropped out, essentially just stopped going. So parents, there's hope. Parents everywhere, there's hope. And and ended up working as an administrative assistant. And one day on the Beltway on 495, going home from work, I just had this epiphany. I want to be a psychologist. And spoiler alert, I am not any longer a psychologist. So here's the point. What I always wanted to be was me and what came naturally to me. And I finally found my way to that.
Nice.
Interesting. But if you could go back to that early time, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give to yourself?
Well, knowing what I know now and knowing the power of the thought world, our thought worlds have to be receptive to good news before we can use it. So I don't know that I would go back and tell myself anything, because I don't know I'd be prepared for it. In fact, I don't think I would have landed on all of the truths that I've landed on now if I took any other path.
So say it again. So you said your mind has to be receptive. Talk more about that.
Yeah, well, so it's interesting. People, this is a mindset issue. It's a thriving issue for anybody in business. Like, I believe that we are most effective in our business and our calling, our gifting, our purpose, whatever it is. We're most effective when we are reaching an audience that's ready. So they're hungry for what we have. It's not our job to convince them that what we have is valuable. We already know what we have is valuable. And it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks about it. What matters is if we're finding the people who already want what we have. And that's where the spark can be effective. And so, for me, my job isn't to convince people who aren't in a place, nor is it to judge people who aren't yet in a place where they have reached this discomfort level that says something in my mindset has to change. Because until you're there, any message that I have to share with you about your thought world is going to be ineffective.
Wow.
So does that kind of go back to that whole idea of that the pain of staying the same has to outweigh the pain of making a change?
Or vice versa, right? No. The pain of, yes. Yeah. So the risk. The risk. You have to be willing to say, okay, well, which hurts worse? And if it's staying here, then that means I have to go.
Right.
Elsewhere.
Yeah. No, I find that to be very true in my work as well. When there's pain involved, you have their undivided attention.
Yeah. Well, and I think I was just having this conversation with a client a couple of weeks ago, and I'm helping her write her book and publish her book. And one of the things she said when I was asking her questions is, and she said, I said, who's your book for? And she said, it's for everybody. And I said, no, it's not. It's not for everybody. Like I used to believe that this message of thriving thoughts was for everybody. Well, everybody needs it. Yes, they do. But it's very parallel to the scriptures about where you sow your seed. If you put it where it's not going to grow, if you put it on amongst a bunch of thorns, if you have to put it in fertile soil, which means it's not your job to make sure that soil is fertile. It's your job to find the fertile soil. Yeah. Fertile soil.
It works. It works.
Say that 5 times fast.
That's right.
Fertile soil.
Now, great points. And so I like how you say, you revolutionize how the world thinks about mental health. Talk about just some of the specific life experiences that got you to the point where you felt like this was your calling.
So I often tell people, and they really don't believe me, but it's very true. I became a clinical psychologist because I never wanted to be a therapist. So I wanted the opportunity to have an education that would afford me the ability to do a myriad of things, speak, write, do therapy, do research, just do a number of things. And, be at the master's level, really, you kind of stop at therapy. Like that's where you land. And I knew I didn't want to stop there. So I went on to get my doctorate. And that'll lead to maybe something that we'll talk about later. But I just want to dive into that time period. So I had set up my private practice. I was doing what you do as a clinical psychologist who gets licensed, is you hang out your shingle and you say, hey, here I am. And you go and join the insurance panels and you get booked. And then you're seeing 30 people a week doing therapy. Exactly what I never wanted to do.
Wow.
Full time anyway. And so there's a whole lesson in that with the, shoulds and the kind of following what we think we should do and what the norm looks like. But here's the beautiful thing that taught me. One, I was very good at it because I love being one-on-one with somebody and tuning in to their experience and helping, being a mirror for them. Not telling them anything about themselves, just showing them what they already know and believe about themselves, and then having them confront that. That's the beautiful part of therapy, is you're just a mirror. And so what it taught me, though, is that over those years, day in, day out of working with people, I saw these common threads, and what I refer to as the common human experience. And so my revolutionary way of thinking about mental health is to shift totally away from everything, even where the media is at right now, of focusing on what's wrong with people, of diagnosing people, of calling whatever is going on with them a name. Because the truth is, whatever is going on with you is legitimate and real. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. I mean, this is a Western misconception, a Western hemisphere misconception. That if you're feeling bad, it's wrong. There's something wrong with you. No. Anger, sadness, anxiety, they're all information. They're there to tell you something. They're there to tell you that something in your reality doesn't jive with your thought world. That's what it's telling you. So it's telling you to move. It's telling you to make a decision. It's telling you to act, to put your thoughts into action. If not, change your thoughts so that your thoughts can change your actions. So your actions then that are changed can change your reality. And so what happened is I saw all these people that were focused on finding out what was wrong with them, because then if they could just find out what was wrong with them, they could fix that thing. Or, you could fix me, Dr. Sherri. You can fix me. But you don't need fixing. What you need to do is learn to know yourself intimately, learn to know how beautifully crafted you are, and that nothing that you feel is a mistake and nothing is wrong with you. In fact, one of the many beautiful experiences in therapy for me was seeing the relief on somebody's face when you did not express surprise at something that they shared with you. Wow. Because so many people feel like they're the only ones thinking it. And so the shift away, me seeing these common human threads of this, there's something wrong with me, said there is a population of people out there. In other words, every single person on the earth, my stuff is for everybody, but hold up. So every single person has a mental health with which to be concerned.
I want to go back.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to go back. What you just said was deep. What you said, so you're working with someone and it improves your rapport when they can share something with you that's heavy and you're not surprised. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah. So, and this may connect to kind of where my work is headed now. So from the thriving thoughts that I produce, these are basically, it's the idea of identifying what we believe in our lives that is a lie that's showing up in our realities in a way that is producing a life we don't want, right? So it's learning to figure out what those are, and then learning to understand how to, essentially what I say is speak truth over them. In other words, speak something that's effective and beneficial to you over them, and start to think that way so that produces different results. But what that's done for me is I have learned that, so I wanted to reach people that wouldn't come to see a clinical psychologist. And to do that, you have to not share concepts with people. You have to share your personal experience with people.
Yeah.
And so what I have done is I've applied this over the last 4 years as this thriving thoughts concept has developed. I have had a multitude of opportunities to thrive, to grow. And those are very dark places. As I have shared those dark places to offer some relief to others who are also feeling and thinking these things, but feeling very alone, feeling marginalized, feeling like there must be something wrong with them if they think or feel these things. I can't tell you the number of people that have reached out and said, like, oh my gosh, you thought that, you felt that. In fact, when I wrote my book, Breakup Breakthroughs, this is, I'm at this point, I'm already speaking. I've written a couple books. I'm coaching, whatever. When I wrote my book, I had a mini panic attack the day that it published.
Wow.
Because that book holds very sacred, dark spaces of my own. And I thought, oh my gosh, people are going to know.
Right.
What I think or what I thought, what I felt, they're going to know these very intimate things. But what I've learned is that that's my obligation, because that gives the gift of relief and understanding and compassion to somebody else out there who may be in a circle of people that would never understand, and that might even marginalize those thoughts or feelings further.
And then you describe the pursuit of this as this risk everything call from within. Talk about that.
Well, I mean, we can talk about it from a straight numbers perspective if you want to, follow your heart and follow your convictions and your passion and take, a 6-figure salary and turn it into good luck. That's what I mean. So, I stopped, as that conviction began to deepen in me, this common human experience, me wanting to go and reach people and say, there's nothing wrong with you. I assure you there is everything right with you. And let me help you see that, I knew I could no longer practice traditionally. I knew I could no longer diagnose people. And, what a lot of people either, maybe they do understand or they don't understand, and maybe they don't understand the ramifications of that. But to get paid by a third party, which a third party is insurance, as a clinical psychologist, you have to diagnose somebody. So you basically have to say, this is what's wrong. And that can follow people for a long time. Not only can it follow people, but it can become an ingrained belief about who they are, about their identity. And so that was not okay with me. So basically what happened from a business model is I went from being booked, right, and making 6 figures to not being booked. I went to private pay, and I was seeing maybe 5 clients a week. I lost my office, my home. I lost relationships. I remember one night, not just one night, I remember a season where I was like, my car is going to be repossessed. I'm very transparent about this because I think here's the truth, that a lot of people don't talk about those struggles because they believe that if you have those struggles, then you're a deficient business person, you're a deficient whatever. There's all these some people are great planners. Some people are very patient. When I feel the call to do something, I have to do it. Whether I've put all my, ducks in a row or not, I have to do it. And I'm willing to accept the consequences of that, which is to risk everything, essentially. And so I even at that time had started going to a Tri-County jail in the area and doing free wellness classes for the inmates because I knew that they needed this information.
Wow.
And so, so that's, you just start where you are. You start with what you have, and you have a few people that believe in you that kind of keep you alive, financially, so to speak. And then you just keep growing that. And I think a beautiful, profound truth that I have learned that I just made a post about the other day, you will never, in my opinion, you will never get to a place where you are convinced that what you have is of value until you're stripped of all of the stuff that says you're valued.
Wow.
So if I don't have praise, if I don't have a following, I mean, this doesn't have to be everything, right? Praise, I don't have a following, I don't have a 6-figure income, I don't have the evidence that says this is valuable. It's when I'm left alone in that space where I don't have that physical evidence, where I have to come face to face with, do I believe in this? And then once you do, nobody can tell you differently. I mean, I had people pull me aside and say, Sherri, I don't think you're well. I think that you're probably making the wrong decision here. You're a clinical psychologist. That's what you need to be doing. And so you're going to have a lot of naysayers. And so you're going to risk disappointment. You're going to risk people being confused. That's where my whole be deliberate, look reckless comes from, because you're going to look reckless when you're pursuing something that you feel compelled to pursue. Damn the consequences.
Wow. I definitely appreciate you coming and being transparent.
See, nobody quite knows what to do with that. But here's the thing, people need to know that they're not alone in that. Yeah. And that, it's okay to, I also had a few people around me who, even though they loved me, questioned me. Stop, sorry, my dog. Had a few people around me who, although they loved me and believed in me, also questioned me. And so that's even more when the belief in yourself becomes solidified, when you're able to take the people who love you, not just the naysayers, but the people who love you and are like, I'm concerned.
Yeah.
You know?
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. So you're a thought coach.
Yes.
So who is your target audience? And you kind of gone through this already, but describe specifically how you help them.
Yeah, well, so the thought coaching comes through the podcasting, the coaching, the writing, the speaking. I consider all of that thought coaching, but I also do that on an individual basis. So my specialty is women, because I am one and I know what it's like to live in the thought world of a woman, and it's very complex and torturous at times. But I've also had men reach out to me. So I actually have a couple of male clients right now that I'm helping with their thought worlds. And so basically there's two foundational principles or premises to having what I call a thriving thought world. One is the willingness to be honest with yourself. Because if you're not willing to be honest with yourself, you're never going to get what you say you want. And in fact, what you say you want may not even be what you want. Right? So it's being honest with yourself from the very simple things like, I don't have time. Wrong. You do have time. Everybody has 24 hours in a day, right? Laura Vanderkamp wrote a book about it, 168 hours, I think, something like that. Great read. But we lie to ourselves all the time. And nobody around me gets away with it. And so, like, for example, the other day I was talking with somebody and she said, I told them I was going to be out of town. I don't know why they're texting me. And I said, people can text you whenever they want.
Yeah.
You decide when you text them back. So you feeling like you have a pressure on you to reply in that instance because we're in this mobile, I know you have your phone on you all the time. So we put this pressure on ourselves, right? These are just two simple ways we lie to ourselves. And so that leads into the second thing. So they know that I'm, doing something. So trying to control something you cannot. That's the other principle, is a striving or a struggling thought world is trying to control what you have zero power to control. We're like, well, they better show up on time today. Oh, they better have taken the trash out when I get home. Oh, they better, right? And like, okay, so what I tell people is, and I love the fact that you said at the beginning, your expectations will show up in your experience, and they will. And I would add on to that, your expectations of yourself will show up in your experience. So if you're focused on expectations of somebody else, which is somebody that you can't control, then your experience is going to be an uncontrollable one. So your expectations must be focused upon yourself. Okay, so what if they don't? What if they didn't take out the trash? What am I going to do? How am I going to respond? So it's being deliberate and focusing your thoughts on what you can control and being honest with yourself. And then, so this is just an example. I was telling a year ago, my father was diagnosed with esophageal cancer a little more than a year ago. And he's doing okay now. He's almost a year out from all of his treatments, radiation and chemo and stuff like that. And I was telling somebody about this. And as I was sharing with him, I was sharing, it was just a person at the dog park that, we walk our dogs together every morning. And I said, I said, but whatever the outcome is, we're going to be okay. Like, it's going to be fine. There's going to be sad moments. There's going to be painful moments. There's whatever but we're going to be okay. Everything's going to be fine. And he said, well, it would seem like you don't care. And there's a difference between apathy and surrender. It's surrendering what you don't have control over and not choosing to hold on to that. It's not apathy.
Wow. We are getting a mindset masterclass with some of the things that Dr. Sherri is dropping on us. And I just hope, for those of you following, I hope you're taking note of this, because all the coaching sessions I've done with different people, this mindset thing is what holds people back from getting what they want. I mean, Ted and I, we see it all the time just in talking to people. So you mentioned some of these errors. You talk about lying to yourself.
Mhm.
And like you said, I love it when people tell me, "Oh, I didn't have time to do that." Okay, so lying to yourself and then trying to control everything. What are some of the other mindset errors or thinking errors that you see?
Well, let's just talk about anxiety. I see this particularly with women that we're exceptionally good at asking the what if questions, and we're horrible at answering them. And so what happens is the what if questions just swirl, and in fact they give way to ridiculous questions. Here's an example. I had interviewed a podcast guest, and she said, my what ifs devolved to the point of, what if I end up under a bridge with a cart? Like, what if that, right? That was where her what if devolved to.
Wow.
And then she said, and I had to take a step back. When I answered it, I said, there's a lot of steps between now and ending up under a bridge with a cart, right?
Yeah.
But you don't take the time to know that, to calm yourself down, to produce reasonable solutions to whatever situation you're in, because when you're in that worry panic mode, in fact, your frontal lobe shuts down, and that's what makes decisions. So if you want to shut that down, you have to answer the questions. You have to exert control over them instead of allowing these questions to run rampant in your mind. So that's one example, not answering the what ifs.
Yeah. Because then it's easy to get into that thought loop. Well, this is going to happen. What if this happens? And yeah. So, what about other steps that people can take? What are some positive steps that people can? They're watching us now on this podcast. When they log off, they can start doing some specific things to improve their thought life. What are some of those things?
Yeah. Well, I think so there's a couple of questions you can ask yourself. One is, and this is to help you have this congruence between what's going on up here and what's going on out here. And that is what I'm choosing right now aligned with what I say I want. That helps to keep me honest. If I say I want to be healthy, but I'm making some decisions right now that would refute that, and am I being honest with myself? Or maybe I just don't want to be healthy. Maybe I just think I should say I want to be healthy because that's what everybody says. And that's okay. Being willing to be like, I don't want to be healthy. Being willing to say that to yourself. Because until you're at that place where you can be honest about that, you're never going to, your reality is never going to change. But you're always going to be pretending that you want it to. So that's one thing. Asking yourself that question, is what I'm doing right now aligned with what I say I want? And then the second thing is to be deliberate and be conscious with the words you choose. So are you using, I don't have time? Are you using, I'll try? Stop it. There is none. You don't. It's either I am doing this or I'm not doing this. Are you using the maybe function on an event on Facebook? No. Commit to something. Well, I don't know what's going to be going on that day. Okay. Well, what do you want to make your priority? Or are you just going to be honest and say, I'm waiting for something better to come along? Right? So it's just about being honest with the words that you choose. And I get really snarky with that stuff because it's very, very simple word changes that you can use. If you start saying, I choose to versus I have to, you start to exercise control in your life. Because if you have to do something, then you don't have control over it. So I would say start with those very few things, just being conscious of the words that you choose, and do they reflect control, your control, or do they reflect control that's outside of you?
Yeah. No, these are excellent points. Man, so you're the author of Breakup Breakthroughs.
I am. You want to see it? It's really pretty.
Nice.
Excellent. So talk to us about what will the reader gain by reading the book?
Oh my goodness. So the book is set up into 10 questions. And the whole idea is that whatever you're going through in life, you have the opportunity to use that to thrive, to grow, flourish, and prosper. And the myth being that thriving is like, galloping on a stallion through a field of daisies and right? Like, no, it's huddled in the corner of a shower, like tears streaming down your face, scared. That's thriving. That's growing, right? And so basically the book is set up into 10 questions to ask yourself specific to a breakup. So the target audience is for people who have gone through, women primarily, who have gone through a breakup or divorce, anything. It's really a grieving process. Asking yourself questions to learn about yourself. In this book, I wrote maybe one thing about my ex, maybe one thing, but it was very like innocuous. Everything in this book was about me. And it was about the questions that I asked myself so that I could grow as a person. And they were not easy questions. And I share how I applied that. What did I ask myself? And then at the end of every question, where I've explained all of that, I provide space. So it's half workbook. So I provide space and ask questions for that person to apply this to their lives. How are you growing through this, as opposed to, are you just going to stay angry and bitter? Or, I mean, even, are you going to jump into the next relationship without taking the time to know yourself? One of my biggest outcomes from this was realizing my worth. Fully realizing my worth. And realizing what I will and won't accept in my life. And so it addresses a lot of those fears about being alone, about being in a relationship that's not optimal is better than being alone. It addresses a lot of the false, the lies that we believe, particularly as women. And so it helps us to grow through that and use it so that going forward, we can actually make choices that are aligned with what we say we want.
Tia, you look like you have a question on your mind here.
No, I was just trying to take all this in. It's a lot.
I'm going to zip it.
But no, so here's what's interesting. The book, it's not theory, right? It's not you. It's not Dr. Sherri, the clinical psychologist. This is from your actual experience and the process that you use.
Yes.
Talk about it. I mean, I think that's powerful.
Well, so that goes back to what we were talking about before. Everything that I share, every week on my Dr. Sherri page, I share a thriving thought of the week, right? Everything I share now comes through personal experience. If it doesn't go through me first, it doesn't have value to you.
Yeah.
And so me sharing that is, yes, very vulnerable, but I don't care anymore because it has to be, look, there's nothing new under the sun, right? Mindset, thriving thought world, mind over matter, growth mindset, whatever. Like, there's nothing new under the sun, but there is a population, there is an audience for me to reach with my experiences that can then apply this mindset stuff we're talking about. And so, yeah, in fact, I'm and I don't know if that answered your question, Eric. If it didn't, I'll be happy to dive back into that. But basically, the process was, I had a thought and I addressed it. So here's an example. Here's a for instance from the book. And this one is always kind of a shocker for people. But one morning after the breakup, and this was probably maybe 3 months or so, and I talk about grief being a process and how you're going to have some good days and some not good days and all of that. And still, I mean, I'm almost 2 years post breakup now. There's still some mornings where I have thoughts cross my mind and I'm like, okay, but I'm easily redirecting that now. But for example, on this one day, I was getting out of the shower and I was tired. And I was, cleaning off the mirror. And as the mirror unfogged, I looked at myself and I physically said aloud to myself, I wouldn't want me either. And if I thought that, Eric and Ted, I'm not the only person who's ever thought that. Because there's nothing wrong with me for thinking that. That's part of the human experience. And so that's the kind of thing I shared. I shared the thoughts that I had and then how I used them to ask myself questions that would actually prosper me.
Man, so here's a question I have, right? I always wonder about this. So if you're ever, like, let's say if you're going through something, do you ever think, say, okay, what would I advise someone else who was going through this to do? Do you ever shift your perspective?
Oh, well, it's all about shifting perspective. It's about one of the things that I teach women, and this is, again, it's nothing new, but if you wouldn't say it to your kid or to anybody else's kid, why would you say it to yourself? Think about that. Think about that thing that I just shared.
Yeah.
Would I go to any kid and say, nobody wants you? No, I wouldn't. Right. And so it's me going, if I, love yourself is a very popular buzz phrase, love yourself, but love is an action. And to love yourself, you have to speak truth and life to yourself. You can't speak death to yourself. And that's speaking death. Nobody wants you. You're a piece of crap. What you have doesn't mean anything. Whatever you do, it doesn't matter anyway. I mean, I could go on and on. These are thoughts that we have, but we have a choice when those thoughts come into our minds. We have a choice. We can invite them in to the table, pour them a cup of coffee or a glass of wine, and say, tell me more. Tell me more about how horrible I am. Or we can say, get to step in. Not today. I know the truth.
Yep. And then you're the host of the Thriving Thoughts podcast.
Yeah.
Which Ted and I had the pleasure of being interviewed on.
Yes.
So talk about that. Talk about what people can expect when they tune in.
Yeah. So the vision for the podcast, because again, it's to offer relief to people, and not just relief, but strategy, practical applications that they can use to have this thriving thought world that I talk about. And so every season has a different theme. And I just started season 5, which is thriving with your ride or die. So I am interviewing friends, friend duos, and I'm asking how that relationship helps them to grow, flourish, and prosper as a person. And so that's the theme for this season. And every week I release 2 episodes. One is a monologue episode with just me, where this season I'm talking about various issues related to friendship based on my personal experiences. And then every week I also drop the interview that I've done with a ride or die duo. And so it's really me asking questions to bring out the stuff that we don't talk about enough. So that people have that relief and then have some practical tools to move forward.
Yeah, it's great. I remember our episode, and you talked about the loneliness that's involved. If you're an entrepreneur, or even if you're someone that's pursuing excellence, it's lonely.
Yeah,
because most people aren't doing that, and I think that's what's great about your show. It does bring to light those things that we don't always talk. Like, we don't talk about how lonely it is trying to be a CEO or trying to take your company to the next level.
Right. And what's interesting is for you two, I mean, I think I'm at 122 episodes, and I've had like 4 men on the show. Right. And so for you guys to be transparent, that's just very different from what our culture says of men. So I appreciate your transparency and giving somebody else relief by sharing those truths on the show.
Yeah, I think everybody they see the success, right? That's what they see. You know, it was interesting. I was looking at even like with the young lady that won the spelling bee, right? And like how crazy it is for her this week. Like, she's like the end thing. Everyone is like looking and wanting to follow her on Instagram and everything. And then you're looking at this and you're like, man, like she was like studying like 7 hours a day.
She was in the alone spaces.
Yeah. But then she also won, had like 3, Guinness Book of World Records. Like, these are all things that she had to just like kind of go into that place and just like that type of like kind of mental tenacity to be like in the 8th grade. I I did Dr. Sherri feel like a loser for a minute. I had to get myself together. I was like, that's pretty amazing, though. It really was. So, but you see this part, and everybody's like, man, wow, she's up there doing that. But just that work and just about everything that she was doing, and just like
people
really
are going to see the
focus.
fruit. They're going to see what you do right, and they're going to see when you fall.
Yeah.
But they're not going to see all the stuff in between.
Yeah, and you have to think about it. Like when her friends are out playing and hanging out, she's dribbling a basketball or spelling.
That's right.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it looks glamorous, but yeah, the
results look glamorous, right?
Oh, yeah. Sitting there dribbling a basketball and a tennis ball on the unicycle, it's like, come on.
Right.
Come on, let's go out and do something different. You want?
Yeah.
No, I'm doing this, and
this is what I'm doing.
This is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
That's kind of in no matter what it is that you're doing in life, it's when you get to that place where you're like, okay, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
You got to be able to take yourself and put yourself in that space.
Live like nobody else, so you can live like nobody else.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Absolutely. All right. So we are about to go around the horn. Dr. Sherri, this is Ted's favorite part of the show.
All right.
This is where we each go around and we give a closing thought for our followers that can help them to become unstoppable. So Dr. Sherri, you are the guest of honor. So we'll start with you. What's that closing thought you'd like to leave the people with?
Oh my gosh, can you come back to me? To make you unstoppable? What's your definition of unstoppable? Like, don't overcomplicate stuff. Be intentional about you want. Be congruent with what you say you want and what's in your life. And you're going to have a lot of happiness and success.
That was pretty good. Yeah.
Be intentional.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, that's great advice. All right, Ted.
You got me going after Dr. Sherri. It's been dropping nuggets all day. I just been sitting back listening. Nuggets, boulders. But we talk about this stuff so much, how everything is just mindset.
Yeah.
Like it's just mindset. And everything that you've talked about, Dr. Sherri, has just been like mindset, like for you to be able to be in control of your mind. And if you think you're, sort of a big deal, you're going to be, really moving towards being sort of a big deal. But if you think, or you let someone else tell you that you're not this or you're not that, then that's where there's the problem. And you control that. You control what you listen to. You can there's so many people that, I'm probably sure that said that, you'll never be able to, make professional sports. You'll never be able to be, to write a book. You'll never be able to be own your own company or whatever, but it's not, none of that's their journey.
Yeah.
Right. So if it's not their journey, you can't allow them to, kind of dictate or, put something in your mind to take you against where you're, what you see as your, your purpose.
Well, and I think anybody has permission to say anything they want to you. Yeah. Whether or not you believe it is up to you.
Yeah.
You don't have to believe everything everybody tells you. You get to choose that.
Yeah.
No, that's great points, Ted. And so my closing thought, it inspired by what we've been talking about today, about like your mindset and like how you talk to yourself. A lot of times I'll work with someone, they say, I am a procrastinator. I am always late.
Yeah.
I am.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, right. And the challenge is, you're going to act out. You'll become that thing.
Yep.
And I try to tell people, you might have done that yesterday, but yesterday ended last night.
Yeah.
Right. So I think you, like you were saying earlier, you have to be very careful of how you talk to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And say things that are going to empower you.
Yeah.
And move yourself forward and talk to yourself like you would, like you said, a child. You say that to a child. Did you say that to your best friend?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think those are great points.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I think this has been like a mindset masterclass.
Yeah. I mean, we could take deep dives into every, nugget, right?
Yeah.
It reminds me of the ultimate kind of the father of thriving in any and every circumstance. That means that everything you can use to grow, everything. So stop wishing stuff away and start using it instead of letting it use you. Is Viktor Frankl, his book Man's Search for Meaning.
Yeah.
You guys know he wrote that book in 9 days.
Wow.
He wrote that book in 9 days and it sold millions of copies. And he talks about the difference in the concentration camps of the people who had mindsets. He didn't use that word, but had mindsets that allowed them to thrive, to be happy and flourish, even if they didn't know if they were going to the gas chamber the next day. And the people who didn't have that. So I encourage your viewers and your listeners to take it. I'm on my 4th time through. It's just really powerful.
Oh, that's great. Thank you for bringing that up. And we'll put that out there too for people. Obviously, we'll put your book out there.
Yeah, please.
I know that's going to really help people. And so how can people, speaking of that, how can people connect with you and get the book and listen to the podcast?
Yeah, well, if you go to my Instagram, if you follow me on Instagram, it's at dr.sherryspeaks. And I guess you guys will include that link. And the link in my profile gives you the link to everything. Podcast, how to get in touch with me, where to order the book, all of that. So that's kind of a one-stop shop. But you can follow me on Facebook at Dr. Sherri. I'm easy to find.
Excellent.
Nice.
Well, we want to take the time to thank you, Dr. Sherri Yoder, for sharing everything that you shared and putting on this mindset masterclass and giving us pages and notes.
Well, thank you, Eric and Ted, for giving me another microphone to share.
Our pleasure.
Appreciate that.
For sure. This was not your everyday podcast. Hopefully, we helped you to laugh, learn, and level up. Don't forget to share the show. That's right.
Share the show.
Hashtag share the show.
Share the show.
Exactly.
Don't keep it to yourself. Share the show.
Exactly. All right. Again, don't forget, you can listen to this again in replay mode when you go to Apple Podcasts or Spotify or any of those places that you like to listen to podcasts. That's our show for this week. Again, thanks to Dr. Sherri Yoder. Until next time, have a great one.